Hey guys, it's Chris. From a killer husband to a killer wife and some absolutely insane scams you'll never believe actually happened, here are 10 times when mail order brides went wrong. Number 10. The Time Traveler Killer. A Russian fiancée named Anna Rybkina was found dead 5,500 miles away from her home. Anna was caught inside of a love triangle which ended up leading to her death. It all started in 2016 when Anna met a man named Will Hargrove on the internet. She wasn't exactly a mail-order bride, but she was still an internet-ordered bride. Being a native of Moscow, it was quite a difficult time getting relocated to the United States from Russia to marry a man that she hardly knew. Will was a 26-year-old guy from Oregon who had a weird obsession with Russian things, and Anna just so happened to be a Russian. It was a match made in a very, kind of creepy heaven. It wasn't until Anna accepted to be Will's wife and moved to the United States that she met his secret girlfriend. Will had been seeing a girl named Michelle Chavez, even after Anna moved to the US. This guy thought he could have it all. He tried to marry the Russian while still dating the local girl. When Michelle Chavez demanded that Will only be with her, the Russian internet bride was found dead the day after Easter, with the back of her skull blasted open by a shotgun. After the incident, investigators found some very strange stuff in Will's web history. According to Detective Chris Dale, Will was searching how to time travel. This guy was literally Googling how to go back in time to stop something from happening. He even took screenshots of web pages on how to cast spells to travel back in time. There were even WhatsApp messages between him and other internet people, with Will begging them for information on time travel. He offered one stranger his soul if they could help him travel back in time to change the past. Obviously, Will was in some serious trouble. He has since been charged with Anna's murder. Number 9. Accused of kidnapping. In a bizarre case of reverse kidnapping, a man from Westchester was recently arrested after it came to light that he had been physically abusing his wife. The guy was 24-year-old Liram Rufati, who wed his wife through an arranged mail-order marriage. He brought her to America, she moved in with him, and then he imprisoned her inside of his house for a full year, abusing her on a daily basis before doing a reverse kidnapping. He, along with his father, forced the poor woman to the JFK airport in New York and tried to put her on a plane back to Macedonia to get rid of her. It didn't work out very well for the abusive husband. His wife told the Port Authority police and customs that she did not want to leave the country. She then divulged to them what horrors had been done to her. She was allowed to stay in the country, and Liram was charged with a whole heap of criminal charges and transported to Chester County Prison, where he's going to be staying for quite a long time. Number 8. Stuffed in a crate. A man in Texas has been sentenced to 10 years in prison after trying to have his Ukrainian mail-order bride kidnapped and sent to America in a crate so he could kill her. The Texan's name is David Sartin. He's 49 years old and a complete psycho. He wanted revenge after Elena Barakina ended their online relationship. David tried to hire an international hitman to carry out his plot, but unfortunately for him, the hitman was an undercover federal agent. But let's go back to the beginning. Their relationship started after David contacted Elena through a dating website and sent her $50,000. Imagine being that desperate. David traveled to the Ukraine 6 times to see his imagined wife. He thought they would get married and live together in Texas. David then discovered that Elena had been lying to him. She was still sleeping with her Russian boyfriend and had no intention of marrying David. She was literally just stealing his money. To get revenge, David plotted to have her delivered to his home inside of a crate, where he then told the federal agent who was posing as a hitman that he would abuse her for a week before murdering her. He was understandably angry, but that's no excuse for kidnapping and murder. But what else do you expect when you try to meet your wife on a website called Dream Marriage, promising to hook you up with gorgeous Russian and Ukrainian women? Number 7. Scammed out of thousands. A man has been ripped off in what investigators are calling a sophisticated mail-order bride scam. Jerry Menzel, 69 years old, was lonely after his wife of 43 years passed away from cancer. In his lonely despair, he got on the internet. He found a 24-year-old bride online and he married her. The woman he married was a Moroccan national. He brought the young girl from Morocco to Pittsburgh, but that's where everything went wrong. Before she actually agreed to go through with the marriage ceremony, she told him that he needed to pay her brother-in-law in London $32,000. And as a quick word of warning, if anyone asks you for $32,000 to marry you, it's a pretty big red flag. Alas, Jerry paid the money and they got married. The marriage lasted for 2 weeks. The woman got a green card for the US and then dumped Jerry, and he has since been ordered to pay his wife alimony. But here's the thing, this is not a unique case. According to the FBI, there are at least 6,000 complaints from people who find themselves the victim of a romantic scam every single year. The FBI also reports that citizens lose over $50 million each year from these kinds of scams, with the average victim being hoodwinked out of roughly 70 grand. So what would you do if the person you thought you were in love with demanded money to marry you? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe. Number 6. Dumped in the mountains. Gary Swirsky strangled his wife Raina to death in the upstairs bathtub of their home, and then forced his 19-year-old daughter to help dispose of the body. But Gary wouldn't be caught for the savage crime for another 7 years. It was only because of the daughter's immense guilt that Gary was even caught at all. She was so plagued by guilt at the terrible secret that she finally went to the local police and told them what her father did. And after a trial that went on for nearly 22 weeks, Gary was convicted by a jury and sentenced to spend 25 years in prison. Believe it or not, this was not Gary's first incident of abuse with a mail-order bride. His first wife had moved from the Philippines to New York to marry him and have his daughter. During the court proceedings for the murder, his first wife told jurors that Gary had abused her throughout the entire marriage. At one point, she even wrote a letter to her sister in the Philippines, a letter saying that if she were to ever go missing, Gary would be the reason for it. In any case, Gary was a serial abuser. After his first wife left, he shacked up with a Chilean woman who died suspiciously after they moved in together. The death was ruled as an accidental drowning, even though that seems pretty unlikely. The only good news here is that Gary will be behind bars for the rest of his life, where he can't hurt any more women. Number 5. Murder in the courthouse. A mail-order bride from the Philippines trying to escape a bad marriage in the United States has been brutally murdered. Even more disturbing is the fact that she was 7 months pregnant when the attack happened. And even more disturbing, the attack happened inside of a courthouse in front of plenty of witnesses. The Filipino woman's name was Susanna Blackwell. She was trying to escape her husband and was hiding from the man who she claimed beat her and never let her leave their home. He was extremely abusive. So she went to court to testify for an annulment. While she was sitting on the courthouse bench with 2 of her friends, her husband approached, aimed a semi-automatic handgun at her, and shot her in the head and chest. Not only did he kill his wife and his unborn child, but he also critically wounded one of Susanna's friends. This is without a doubt one of the most brazen mail-order bride murders in recorded history. The murderer has since been arrested and will undoubtedly be charged with homicide. Number 4. The killer wife. In a shocking twist, a woman in China was recently accused of killing her husband and then trying to sell her own babies. The woman's name is Ayu, and she was a mail-order bride who'd been purchased by a lonely Chinese man and brought from Vietnam for only $3,000. Not only that, but she'd been purchased with the help of her now-dead husband and his father. About a year after the arranged marriage, Ayu gave birth to twins. According to the Daily Mail, she then murdered her husband and her husband's mother before stealing her own babies and trying to sell them to human traffickers for $7,000 each. The police said that Ayu killed her husband and her mother-in-law with the help of 3 other men from Vietnam. Ayu was only 21 years old at the time and had probably been hoping to make a new life for herself with the $14,000 she earned from selling her children. But she never got that far, as police arrested her just hours after the bodies were found. They also arrested others who had been involved in the human trafficking scheme to sell babies to willing buyers. Number 3. Vanished without a trace. Jack Reeves murdered his mail-order bride, but his murder spree goes well beyond just one unfortunate Filipino woman. The story begins in 1978, when Sharon Reeves was discovered dead with a gunshot wound to her chest. It was initially ruled as a suicide, but it was in 1994 when Emelita Reeves vanished without a trace, and police became suspicious of Jack Reeves, who now had a total of 3 dead wives. Jack was only 18 when he first got married. At the time, his wife was 15 years old, and their marriage was annulled in 1960. A year after that, Jack married Sharon before enlisting in the army. He was stationed in Italy in 1967, and he shot and killed a local Italian because he claimed the man was peeking into their bedroom window. He spent 4 months in prison for manslaughter before the charges were dropped. Jack then returned to the United States with his wife Sharon and their 2 sons. In 1978, Sharon was found dead in her bedroom with a shotgun between her legs and a wound through her heart. Years later, in 1984, Jack's 3rd wife drowned in a lake. It was considered an accident, and when his dead wife's sister demanded an autopsy be done, he quickly cremated her body to cover up the evidence. The final murder came with Jack's 4th wife. He ordered Emelita from a mail-order bride catalog in the 90s and brought her to America from the Philippines. In 1994, she vanished. A lengthy investigation followed Jack in his trail of death, and he was ultimately found guilty of murder in 1996 and sentenced to 35 years. A few months later, in August of 1996, he was charged with a 2nd murder and given an extra 99 years. Number 2. A disappointing marriage. In 2007, a man from South Korea flew to Uzbekistan to meet his future wife. Before his flight, he had written down a letter stating his income, his job, and some important medical facts that were all a part of his resume for the international marriage market, something that's very much alive and well today. The Korean man used a special broker whose job was to unite potential marriage candidates. This guy found out later that his broker had lied to him. He had never given his potential wife the letter he wrote, and he had even lied to the woman who he'd set the Korean man up with. The broker told the Uzbek woman that her new husband would be buying her a house and that he was rich. But that was not the case. After the Uzbek woman arrived in Korea to marry her new husband, she realized he wasn't as rich as previously thought. She told him that he needed to buy her a house, and he couldn't do that because he didn't have the money. She then demanded to be returned to Uzbekistan, but things got even worse. After the woman was sent back to her home country, she reached out to the guy she never married and said she was pregnant with his child. Ever since, he's been sending her money, even though she's never provided proof that there even was a baby in the picture. It may have all been a great big scam. Number 1. Cold-blooded killer. Indel King Jr. had a history with mail-order brides. A few years before he strangled his mail-order bride from Kyrgyzstan to death, he had already been divorced by yet another foreign wife after she accused him of beating her in the head with his fist and smashing her face against a wall. Using online portals, Indel King Jr. secured yet another young and beautiful wife from a foreign country and lured her to the US. Anastasia Solvoyova went from Kyrgyzstan to a subdivision in the north of Seattle. She was tall and beautiful, while her husband was pretty unattractive to say the least. They weren't really compatible. And after a few months, this became obvious, but rather than let it go, Indel King Jr. took out his anger on his new wife. He began to physically abuse her. Shortly after things started to go sour, her body was found wrapped inside of a blanket and dumped in a shallow grave on the property of the Tulalip Indian Reservation. As it turned out, King and his friend, Daniel Larson, killed her together. They strangled her to death. At the time this was discovered, Larson was already in jail for soliciting a teenager. King got 28 years in prison, and his dead wife's family was left with the brutal memory of their murdered daughter. Thanks for watching. What do you think about the mail-order bride market? Let me know in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe for more videos like this one. We'll see you next time.